This is Steve Young for the Co-Roundtable. We're in the United States of America, as most of you probably know. We're in an interesting, I would call it, interregnum between sort of the end of one administration under Donald Trump and the beginning of a new administration under Joe Biden, who takes office January 20th, about 6 days from now. And in this interregnum, there's been lots of things have gone on which the world has been paying attention to, from arguments over the validity of the election to a mob of people who, some of whom were armed and prepared to do violence, crashing into, breaking into, assaulting an institution, a physical building, the Capitol, which had never really ever in the history of this country had been so invaded. And many Americans are left, wondering at least. Many are afraid. One of the things that struck me, and I wanted to talk about, because one of my colleagues, Patrick Roan, who, by the way, at this very moment is recording this video for you, made a point about history, which I hadn't thought about before, but I think it's quite a deep point and a very helpful point. I have been observing and talking that very few people, including very well-educated Americans, people in positions, commentators, writers, business leaders, seem to know very little about history. It doesn't sort of come up. What happened in previous republics? What are other examples in other cultures of crises over a constitution, of severe division and polarization in a society, of the emergence of new economic orders and things like that? Everybody seems so absorbed by the immediate, what happened yesterday, what today, and with social media, which I think is a cause of this at a sort of intellectual, emotional level. Who remembers what somebody tweeted 2 weeks ago, or a year ago, or 2 years ago? And who's going to remember in 2 weeks or 6 months what you and I said or tweet or did? So then the question is, what's the value of history? I would say a lot of Americans, and my children and grandchildren, among them, are kind of skeptical about history because it's past, it's dead, it's not going to come back. What have we got to learn from it? Well, Patrick had a thought that in some ways history can function at an abstract level, not different from, say, ethics or morality. Ethics and morality do what? They have some form of thinking about behaviors, other people, ourselves, action choices, which are not wrapped up in our own psychology or our own emotions or our own interest at the present time. They stand apart. Adam Smith actually referred to these things as, he called it the man within the breast, or we would call it probably conscience. It's something which is at the same time outside of us, but also in us, which if we listen to it, if we pay attention to it, it gives us perspective, it gives us other things to think about, it allows us to relate to other people. Well, what does the study of history do? I've been thinking there are a lot of parallels between the growing tensions and divisions in the United States and the turn to violence and the Roman Republic of 2,000 years ago. We're not Romans, different situation, but there are parallels. If I can read the history of Rome, what's important now is not that I know the day on which Caesar died or Cicero gave his oration against Catiline or this or that, or how many soldiers were in a Roman legion or something like that. What is important is my abstracting out of those facts and the people who either wrote about them then or wrote about them later for lessons learned, let me say that, for observations, for judgments, for standards, for an insight into human nature. So that if I see somebody come along today who's kind of like Caesar or Mark Antony, I have a feeling in myself that this person may behave in similar ways, or this person is being motivated and influenced in similar ways. So my thought is maybe we should spend more time looking at history, not to memorize things, but to look for patterns of human behavior and higher standards of understanding.